The podcast is hitting a huge milestone today. I don't know what to call it, but something very new, never been done before on this podcast. And don't go anywhere, but you are about to hear a male voice. Yes, I have a male podcaster who is coming on the show today. He is going to teach us some things. I met this friend through a networking platform and thought that he was a good voice to bring on to teach us some things as working moms. Whether you are a stay-at-home mom who is working as a homemaker and a wife and a mom, or you actually go outside your home and work, or you're working from an office in your house at nap time like myself, whatever it is, we are all working moms. And so I think you can learn something from Chris today. I have Chris Burns coming on the show. He is a serial entrepreneur, an author, an adjunct professor, a podcaster, digital marketing coach, and consultant. He has a lot of wisdom when it comes to marketing and business vision and goal setting. And so as we start this year, 2025, we are still in the first month of the year. I wanted to bring someone on to speak to a vision and how we can set our year up for success as busy working moms. I hope this blesses you today. Let's get into it. Hey mama, are you overwhelmed by your full blessed life? Do you feel stuck in the messy, mundane middle? Then I'm so glad you're here to take a breath. Hey, I'm Shan, RN, holistic wellness coach, and a mom to four that went from perfectionism, control, and lots of anxiety to intentionally living through simple solutions and so much peace. If you are done with the stressed out life, hot mess express type of motherhood, then heat up that coffee again and let's live holistically well in the middle. Let's go. Okay, well, today on Holistic Moms, we are hitting a big milestone. I actually didn't see this one coming, but we have our first male guest on the show. And the reason being is because he has a great message about vision and goals and expectations. And all of those things tend to stress us out a little bit. And it's the start of the year. We're still in the first couple months of the year. And so I think it's a great time to ease the stress on all of that. I want you to hear what he has to say through so much experience that he has. So Chris, welcome to the show.
Shan, thank you for having me. Happy New Year. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about what I think is my zone of genius, one of few in life.
Yes, if you're an expert, that's what we want to come on the show and tell us all about vision and goals. So I'm excited that you're here. So let's get to know you a little bit. Please share a little bit about what you do, your family, and then 3 things that you're loving right now.
Okay, well, let's start with the family. I'm a father of 3. I've got twin girls that are 9, and they're fun. Lots of energy. I'm getting bossed around by all 3 of the women in my house already, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I've got a 17-year-old son and I who, occasionally will try to gang up on my wife when she picks on us. And then a couple things I'm enjoying right now is I'm actually enjoying that it's a new year. So I always look at it like, it's a chance to hit the reset button on some things that maybe you didn't love about the previous year, both personally, professionally. Everybody needs that wherever, regardless of what level of success you may have had or not had. And I look at it as it's a new game, right? Every time you start over. What else am I enjoying? I'm enjoying the fact that we just booked a cruise on the Royal Caribbean, Icon of the Seas. So kind of gets me excited about the winter months. They get really long, and we can certainly fall into seasonal depression. And so when it's never really sunny and always cold, it's like I got something to look forward to. And then I'm also looking forward to, I ordered a whole bunch of new books on Amazon. And so I'm kind of stepping outside my self-help business books and expanding upon my horizons. I read 30 books this year. So in the coming year, I'm hopeful to break that record, personal record, and get to about 35.
Awesome. Well, I know you can do that because I used to have that goal where you read your age in books every year. I think I stopped that goal at 36 because, or 37 or 38. I can't remember, but I think my most I ever read was 36. But I think I stopped it at age 38 because I was like, I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to spend all Christmas break reading. But it was so fun while I did it. I love reading too. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And I love that you said putting something on our calendar to look forward to. Because I think that's really important for kids. Like, they always have countdowns going on for school. We're going to Disney this week. So we have a
Ooh,
countdown going on for Disney.
great.
And they want to know every day, what's the day? Christmas, there's always a countdown for Christmas. But those things don't really, well, I don't know. Disney might excite you. So those things don't
It
tend to like
does.
really spark us as parents as much because we know there's so much work that goes into it. We know there's so much that we have to do and get done. But personally, find that thing that you can look forward to that really, really, like you said, puts the sunshine on the calendar so that you're going to find the sunshine soon. It's going to be there.
Yeah.
You have something to look forward to. It just gives you that excitement. And I think we shouldn't lose sight of that as adults and just
Yeah.
let our kids do it. Like we should do it too.
Yeah, it's one couple things that you said there I want to touch on real quick is number one, when we have exciting things, that's what some of us do. And great, it's easy for me to say as a guy because unfortunately my wife does more of the packing for the girls since, that's not my department. I'm not going to be very good at packing the suitcases. So there is a lot of work, but if you focus on that, you're going to carry a little bit more stress and anxiety in anything rather than we know it takes time to pack. We know it takes time to prep. And when you go to parks, like you should invest time in YouTube videos because there's a lot of little hacks and tricks that can make your experience much
Yeah.
better. However, if you focus on the positives, if you think like, oh, sunshine, we're gonna get all our steps in, we're gonna try some new food,
Yeah.
we're gonna go on some rides. Like, I get excited about that stuff pretty
Yeah.
easily. So I tend to always focus more on the positive because if you want to say, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be exhausted, my back's gonna hurt, like I don't know if the kids are gonna have fun, that energy is going to be absorbed by the kids and the kids are going to be
Hmm.
like, I don't know if I want to go on that ride or it's this or that. So we've always tried to highlight more about, hey, you get to go to Disney. Not
Hmm.
we are, you get, like, we're fortunate. We get to go to
Oh yeah.
Disney and we're going to be able to do all these amazing things. And so it's easy for
Yeah.
me to say, but I have to remind myself too that there are other things in life where my wife will tell me, she's like, think about what you just said. And I was like, yeah, I have to rewind and rephrase that because even I trick my brain to think that way. And then I say that, and then my kids absorb it.
Yes, that is such a good perspective to have because there's always going to be. I remember our first trip, I was just all focused on the girls were 5 and 3. I was so focused on it's going to be amazing. I didn't really know what to expect taking kids to Disney. And then I saw that it was, a little different. We had some big challenges. My husband, who did all the planning to a T, I actually didn't have any part in it because I was busy getting the all the outfits together and all the hair things and making sure all the girls had everything they needed. That was my department. His department was planning. Well, I didn't tell him to do this, but plan the whole trip to a T. I didn't prioritize that in the time getting ready. And he lost his voice and literally could not talk at all. The first 3 days, we were like, now what do we do? So it was a little bit different experience. So now I'm like, every trip after that, it's gonna be fun. We don't have to plan to a T. It's gonna be a good time. Just, again, focus on the positives. I'm so excited to get my steps. You better
My
believe
wife would
it.
probably have loved if I lost my voice for 3 days.
No, I do not love it. Okay, well, I'm so excited to have you here for another reason. I don't talk directly to the working mom that often, but I am the working mom and I know a lot of my friends are. I know a lot of my listeners are. So whether you're working in a business or in your office during nap time like me, or when all the kids are at school like right now, or early mornings, I do that a lot, or you leave the home for a couple of days, a week, or you're a full-time working mom. I may have that audience as well. Wherever you are, we actually are all working. or whether you're just a homemaker and you're a stay-at-home mom. We're all working at home, in our home, raising kids, and that is hard work. And so I want to talk to this mom, which is all of us, a little bit. We have a lot to learn from you as a business coach and an expert in business and vision and goals and all that you do. I believe we can't manage what we don't measure, and we can't know where we're going if we don't track it. So let's start with vision. Why, Chris, is vision so important?
Well, it's important for a lot of reasons, but I would kind of start by asking a question. If you don't have a vision, how do you measure success? But more importantly, when you look back at the end of the year, so we're in 2025, and I ask you the question, or your spouse asks the question, was it a good year? Were you successful? Were you profitable? Any number of questions. How do you qualify or quantify that? Because we all want to be successful. And I don't care what your definition of success is. Maybe it's making your first $10,000 from your side hustle, or maybe it's cracking the $100,000 mark. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. You need to be able to measure and quantify. And if you didn't know at the start of the year, you're probably not going to know tomorrow. And if you're not measuring and tracking, you have no way of gauging if it was successful. More importantly, you have no way of knowing, what do I need to do to get there? So, Shan, I often start by talking about this. So vision is a big, big part of what we do at Hustle Leaders. And I want to talk about hustle later too, because I know it's a word that not a lot of people love. But we have this thing called the 2020 Vision Guide. And before we had created this program, I had talked to a gentleman who runs a podcast, who became a client. And I said to him, I said, Jim, what is it that you want? And bear in mind, this was a gentleman who made nearly $1 million from his show. He's basically a solopreneur. He had outsourced a little bit of his video production and video editing and literally did almost everything by himself. And you'd say, like, how much more success could this person have? Because he's already, it seemed like, reached as high as he can go. But he wanted to get into merch and more shows and all kinds of other stuff. And I was kind of shocked when he gave me the answer. And if you're only listening and you can't see me, he looked up at the ceiling, he kind of looked left, looked right. And if the pause was 15 seconds, it felt like 2 minutes. And he just started rambling things off. He said, well, Chris, I want more downloads. I guess I'd want more subscribers. I think I'd want more sponsors. And I finally said to him, like, Jim, are you making this up? He's like, well, no, I'm not. I said, well, you couldn't qualify or quantify immediately. And it looks like you're guessing based on the body language and what I'm seeing and what you're saying and the tone you're speaking in. And I said, you really don't have any specifics. Nothing is really specific. Nothing jumped out of your mouth. And he's like, well, yeah, I guess I am making these things up. And I said, well, if you're making them up, then you don't have a vision. So I said, this was a successful year because of X. He's like, well, I don't know. And so this is what I tell him. If you don't know what you want to achieve at the end of the year, and I'm not talking about 5 years or 3 years from now, I'm talking about the calendar year we're in, you don't have a GPS. And if you don't know even broadly, like, hey, I want $10,000 in 10 months, it's going to take this many clients, you don't even have a navigation. You don't have a compass. And so question I like to ask people is,
I'm popping in here for some good news. My Find More Time workshop is back just in time for you to start this year off on the right foot. No more are we going to be running through our year and surviving and thinking that we don't have enough time to do all that we're supposed to do. And here it comes another year where we are on the Hot Mess Express. Nope. This year's going to be different. And this workshop will help you do just that. If you feel stress on a daily basis or even a couple days a week, that you just feel irritable, on edge, that you might snap at any moment, you feel forgetful and flustered, and that there's always something coming up and there's always something stealing your time. If you feel anxious at all or just stressed out and overwhelmed, then this workshop is for you, because I know that you want to spend your time intentionally. I know that you want to raise these kingdom kids to be good humans in this world. And so this workshop is going to help you decrease the stress, find that presence and energy and patience that you have been looking for, and bring you ultimately to true peace. I invite you into the Find More Time workshop, which will be a 2-day event, and it's going to be well worth your time. It will be February 18th and 19th, which is a time change from the last couple episodes. I had to move it back, and this is now the new dates of the workshop is February 18th and 19th. But again, and if the time logistically does not work for you, please sign up anyway, because the workshop replay will come right to your inbox. You can watch it on your own time, and there's going to be a huge giveaway. Yes, this is a free workshop with a comprehensive, amazing workbook, but we're giving away amazing door prizes for those who show up and a huge giveaway just for registering. So you can get off that hot mess express and get your mental wellness in check and have a year where you are pursuing peace holistically. Go right now to www.theshanwright.com/time. We're going to steal back the time that you have been missing. Register today at www.theshanwright.com/time time. See you there.
Where are you going? And if you have a vision, you at least have a destination. But beyond that, you need a GPS. Some people have a compass, and that's okay. You can still kind of get to where you want to go. It's going to take a little longer. It might be a little more expensive. You're going to have some roadblocks. Car might break down along the way, but at least you have a destination. But a lot of people don't even have a compass. And without a vision, you're going to go through life a little aimlessly. That's okay. We have to learn. But that's typically the first step in being like, yeah, this is no good. I don't like this. But here's what happens is we hustle the wrong way. We work 45 hours a week, 65 hours a week, whatever it might be, because we think more is more. And then we spin the hamster wheel faster and faster and faster. And I'll tell you, men are probably more true of guilty of this than anything. And all of a sudden we step out only to realize, like, I've missed out on some kids' games. I've missed out on some time with my spouse. I've missed out on some relationships that I should have been nurturing. And you just feel like crap, mentally and physically, because I thought I was hustling. I thought I was doing all the right things. And now I'm burnt out. Now I need to reset. That is not the way to go. And not having a vision, you're bound to be there more often than not. I've seen it happen from a lot of folks, men and women, young or old, entrepreneurs, business leaders. And I just think if you want 2025 to be the best year ever, it starts by crafting a vision. And there's no right or wrong way. It's just you have to get clear on what you want to achieve personally and professionally.
Yes, that's good. Can I ask you, as a mom and moms listening who have basically their whole heart in their home, but then they do these other things and they have these little passions and they have, maybe it's a full-blown business. Maybe it's you work part-time for, as an employee for someone else's business, whatever it is. It might not be your main thing, but how do we pair those visions? How do we pair the family vision and the personal vision with the business and working vision? Like, how can they go together so that we're not going on two different paths, right? Like, we're going down the one path. How do we couple it?
Yeah. Well, one thing, if we zoom out for a minute, you have to remember that everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes I'll start with this is, you should put your family first, your personal life first. So whether you're married and have kids, or you're married and no kids, or you've just got close family, you have to write down, what are the priorities in my life? And should work be a part of it? Absolutely. But part of what we go through in our guide is we write down, this is my vision. This is what a great 2025 would look like. And I say this a lot, but sometimes it doesn't always hit the first couple of times, is the vision might look something like this. And it could be two separate visions. It could be one for personal, one for professional. Is 2025 is going to be a great year because I will have finally taken my family on that cruise, or finally taken my family to Italy. That's what my wife wanted to do. I finally hit the top 5% in the company threshold, and I crushed my sales goals, and I got rewarded with X, whatever it is. And then we write down what are the things we need to do to get there. So in our vision guide, we've got things like health, we've got mindset, we've got education, we've got relationships, and we've got vision, our business. And I say everything's connected because to me, I'll tell a story that helped me get to where I am today. I call it my light bulb moment. In probably the ripe age of, I want to say it was like 35, 34, I was diagnosed with cancer of the appendix. And I remember my wife was working. My wife has a big corporate job. And she also had twin girls at the time that were like 1 or 2 years old, and like an 8 or 9 year old at home. And I was in the hospital. It wasn't dire. It felt dire, of course, but she had kids to take care of. She had a busy job that she couldn't sacrifice. And so I was sitting in the hospital by myself a lot, pondering life as I should. And I thought, geez, if this was the end for me, uh, man, I would be really disappointed. I really need to take a look at myself and change some things. So I came across this model called the CTFIR. And I'm not going to go through that for sake of time, but a light bulb went off and I realized that I wasn't taking care of myself the way I should. You think, well, you're in your 30s, you can do whatever you want. Probably drinking too much, not eating well enough, not sleeping well enough. I was grinding, hustling, trying to write a book. Didn't love my job at the times before I was a full-time entrepreneur, and my body shut down. I think because I wasn't taking care of myself and I was unhappy. And I had a lot of stress with, kids and just new family and all that stuff. And so as I laid there, I said, if I can't take care of me, how am I going to take care of my family? And that's something we as parents do a lot. So if I don't fill my cup, no one else will. And my wife tells me this a lot. She gets what she calls mom guilt, which we'll touch on later, which I'm sure a lot of people know about. And I said, I need to eat better, sleep better. I need to do all these things because if I don't have the right energy and mindset, I'm not going to be a good dad. I'm not going to be a good spouse. I'm not going to be a good leader for my clients. And when I got out of the hospital, I changed all those things. And I put my personal education, my mental health, and my physical health at the top because I wanted to live a long life and be around for my family. That was my number one priority in life. That means I have to be selfish, but it said I had to say to myself that I have to do this. And I've got another story of my wife where she had to do that. She calls it mom guilt. Then I realized that allowed me to be able to help bring this vision to life that I wanted. But I was the one getting in the way for so many years. And I didn't see it. I couldn't see it because I didn't have a vision. My wife wanted to become a CHRO, be executive at her company. And one of the things that she had struggled with for a long time was working a lot. And I've always told her, like, look, I'm in your court. You do whatever you need to do. I'm here to support your goal and your dream. And the family will be fine. Like, I work for myself. I can make my own hours. We can live. And she was put on an assignment, which was to help promote her career to the next level, where she was literally living in another state for 4 days a week for 18 months before she decided to leave because she was missing a lot. We have to make sacrifices, but she knew what she wanted. She knew her vision. That was the pinnacle of her career. And I said, I got your back. And she ended up leaving the company before she got the promotion because she didn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And she came back, took a new job, and she finally got promoted. And I just said, look, these are the sacrifices because we have an aligned vision. These are the sacrifices that we are willing to make. Now, kids will be so young that they won't remember that. They're not going to hold it against mom, and I certainly never would. But we have coalesced on what that family vision is. And her vision is my vision is her vision, I hope. And to collectively, we know what we want professional, but we also know what we want personally. And it requires communication with your spouse. Sometimes it requires sacrifice and saying, hey, are you good with this? Like, I've got your back. I'm good with it.
Yes, that's so good. So actually, last year, my word of the year was vision. It started January by writing it all down. And I put first goes God, family, business. It's like a cliche and people say that. But when I wrote it down and I'm like, my word of the year is vision, I'm like, do my goals and calendar actually line up with that? Does that really speak to what I am prioritizing? Or is all my goals and priority and time going to my business and it's like flip-flopped? And so I had to like really sit with that and make specific, like you said, make specific goals that went with my vision for each of those areas. And so I think as over here, we're busy, high achieving moms. We tend to have long to-do lists, a long bucket list, and like these dreams that we're going to get to one day, and these visions and goals that we're going to get to one day, and even a long reading list, which I know you think leaders are readers. So we're going to get into reading in just a second. But we have all these big, audacious goals, and we tend to make them too big to where we can't really accomplish them. And
Mhm.
like we have a hard time breaking them down into small, little baby steps to reach that one goal, to then reach the other, to then get to the vision. So, can you help us? How do we create realistic expectations with the vision and the goals to fit our busy life?
Yeah. I actually think you should have big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why many of us don't achieve our goals is because they don't apply enough pressure. So I read
Mm.
this book, and I won't go into it, but it's called 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan.
Oh, I know that
And
book.
I had read the 10X book years ago by Grant Cardone, which is very, very different on 10X. So I went into it like having this bias. And then after I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, 10X is easier than 2X. And to do that, you have to get out of working in the business to work on the business. So a couple of things there I want to touch on is number one is a lot of us need to delegate or hire. So it
Mm.
could be as simple as just, you know what? I'm going to stop cleaning my house and I'm going to hire someone to clean my house. As soon as your
Yeah.
business starts making money, we need to look at maybe like having a personal assistant or having a VA, something that takes you away from doing the non-revenue generating tasks.
Hmm.
If you have a goal that you say maybe it's a little bit of pressure but not a lot, anything is possible. It's just what are we going to sacrifice to get there? So for some of us, it means we need to go from working 20 hours a week as a side hustle to working 30 hours a week. So are we going to sacrifice like some Netflix? Are we going to sacrifice some sleep and get up a little earlier? Not saying you have to burn yourself out, but for many of us, it's just reallocating time from one thing to another. So one thing I look at is I do an audit. I'm really big on audits. So when I work with my clients in any capacity, I say, show me your calendar. Show me
Hmm.
what you're spending your time on. I'll say, okay, what are the three most impactful things you're doing right now for your business that are really moving the needle? I'll write them down. I'll say, okay, now let's look at the bottom of that list. Okay, why are we doing these things? First of all, it's like certain marketing tactics specifically, we're just posting just a post, or we get stuck scrolling through social media. It's like, let's take some of that time and that resource and let's allocate that to the tactics and behaviors that are going to move the needle, that are going to help us. So I think a lot of times it's just shifting focus and shifting time and resources to things that are working. So that might mean doubling down on the top three things that work. It also might mean adding in two new things. And that could be scary for a lot of us because we are creatures of habit. So I look at this. I start telling people, you have your goals. Now give me the three behaviors that you're going to need to achieve those goals. And maybe it's multiple behaviors, but if we don't write them down, and then, Shan, and then I want you to write down the barriers associated. So I know what I need to do, but then what's the one excuse I'm going to come back to you and say, oh, I couldn't get it because of X. It's too hard. Okay. Is it time? Well, then write down that you're going to block 2 hours a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays to do the behavior. So then time will never be the issue. Number two is budget. I don't have a budget. Well, make a budget. Shift money from one category to another so that you can be able to afford tool that you need to do the thing. And then write down the next behavior and the next barrier that goes along with that. So at the end of the quarter, the end of the year, you're like, no excuses. I did it
Hmm.
because I knew the behaviors. I followed through on the behaviors and I wouldn't let the BS excuses get in the way. Well, if we write them down and we acknowledge them, then there's literally no excuses for us not to get there. It's if it's a priority, it's going to be on your calendar. And it's if it's a priority and it's on your calendar, it gets done. But if it's not a priority and it's not on your calendar, what do you think the outcome is?
Hmm.
Calendar, vision guide, same thing. Hopefully it's on both.
Yeah, I agree. I live by my calendar. I think a lot of moms might have a family calendar, they might have a personal calendar. Actually using it, I think sometimes we just get so busy we don't even write things down, and then we're like, you miss things, you miss activities, you miss, and it just gets to be a lot, especially when you have multiple kids going in different directions. So definitely using those calendars and writing things down. And I like what you said, writing down the barriers, and then you can overcome them. You can overcome the barriers. Okay, so let's go back to reading real quick. Leaders are readers. We are leaders of our homes by being parents. And how
Yes.
do we make time to read?
Wonderful
I,
question.
I think you have a
So
good story about this.
I really do. Had a conversation toward the end of the year because I do this kind of like reading stack now, where at the end of the year, take a picture, and then I did a newsletter and a YouTube video on my top 10 favorite books of 2024. I had a conversation. Someone says to me, Chris, like, how do you read 30 books in a year? And I said, it's pretty easy, actually. And they're like, what? How? How could that be easy? And I said, well, let me just first start by telling you this. Self-diagnosed myself as having ADHD. I always said, like, oh, I can't read. I can't do that. I'd be lucky if I read 2 books a year. I saw my wife reading, and she was like, oh, you want to read this book or you want to pick this up? She loves to read. She reads like 60 books a year, and they're big too. I just said to this person, getting back to the question, the conversation, 15 minutes a day on average. And they're like, no. And I said, yeah, that's it. If I zoom out, winter days like this, there's not a whole lot on TV, and we don't watch sitcoms because I don't think there's anything on TV worth watching, if I'm being honest. We barely binge watch anything. So if sports isn't on, we're just reading. And I'll tell you what, it's a great role model, a great
Mm-hmm.
example for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I read my first book at the tail end of 23, kind of cascaded into 24. And that book was Think Again by Adam Grant. And it was, to me, profound. It really helped me shift the way I think, and it I would say pushed me to want to improve and be a different person. Not different, but having different perspectives. So I had all these books in the office here. I'm like, I'm gonna read another one, and I read another one, and I read another one, and I said to my wife, I'm like, it's not even spring break, and I got 10 books in. She's like, wow, I never thought I'd see the day. And I just felt like a better person. I felt I was falling asleep faster at night. I was sleeping through the night because guess what? Scrolling on your phone at night before you go to bed doesn't do anyone any good. It gives
No.
you stress and anxiety. There's all kinds of things. Even if you don't think you have a lot of negativity in your feed, it's just it doesn't do anything for you. And we're just aimlessly scrolling. I felt this motivation and I felt this improvement, the self improvement, and I was hungry to get better and read. I just looked at myself and I'm like, Chris, if you had only been doing this for the last 20 years, how much further would you be? And so I had this awakening moment. There were days where I'd read 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday or Sunday, and then there'd be 2 weeks that would go by where I wouldn't read at all. And then spring break came and I read like 3 books in a week. Never had done that in my life, by the way. I was like, wow. I look at the end of the year and I'm like, I probably went at 1.6 weeks without reading a book. And I averaged it all out. It was about 15 minutes a day. And I thought to myself, I'm like, everybody has 15 minutes a day on average.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. And people can say, I don't have the time, I can't make the time, can't find the time. You'll never find the time if that's your attitude and your mindset. It's only if you make the time. So I said before, allocate or reallocate time. It's the same thing here. If it's a priority to you, you'll do it. You put it on your calendar. And some of us, we have to put it on our calendar. Otherwise, I used to say out of sight, out of mind. So I just started making things priorities. I'd write them down, I'd put them on my calendar. And guess what? I had a pretty high follow through rate, or started to get a higher follow through rate. So my wife appreciated that, as I did. And so I just said, like, I can have the TV on and look up occasionally, and I can read for 15 minutes a day. So at night, I got a little reading light, a little dorky reading light, like I'm an old man. My wife has one too, and we read. And our kids are reading more. We're setting a good example. It's not that hard. So what do you
Yeah.
have in your life that you could replace it with? Even if
Mm-hmm.
your spouse doesn't read, who cares? Just if you like to read and you find value, make time for it. And my wife will bring books to basketball games, and in halftime, in between games, she's just sitting there reading her book. And I love
Mm-hmm.
that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, a few years ago when I had all the little kids. So I don't know. I have 4 kids. So when I had all the little ones, was doing this reading challenge. That's the years that I was doing it. 36, 37, 38 years old. I would get the question all the time, how do you have time to read? And I literally would set timers on my phone. It might be 10 minutes, it might be 15 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, but it was like nothing more than that. And it was like I just made the time while the kids are eating breakfast in the morning. Like I found the time. It was usually in the morning. I didn't do well reading at night because I would literally fall right to sleep. And it
It's a
was either
good
in the
thing.
morning, it was either in the morning or at nap time. I would set a timer. And that's how I got through all those books. So I love that. Make the time, create the time, set the timer. As moms, we're really good with timers, but we tend to use them for
Hmm.
the kids and not for ourselves too much. But set the timer. You're going to get through it. You're not going to waste any time. You're actually spending good quality time. So I love that. And I love that you are now a reader and that you guys do it in the evening. That's just so good. We need to get better at that. And I think, yeah, everyone can benefit, right? The whole family.
Yeah, I'll say this too is that there are a lot of moms that stay at home, and there's some dads that do that too. And when you're the primary caretaker in your family, the person, male or female, it doesn't matter, has this guilt that like I can't do anything for myself, right? But I actually think the opposite. I think that it's hard to say, it's easy to say, sorry, hard to do, but you have to put yourself first, I think, because if you are putting yourself first and you're doing things that fill your cup, it's actually improving your mental health. And I
Hmm.
don't care who you are, I don't care what you come from or what your lifestyle is. We all need to work on our mental health and take care of ourselves because then you can be the best mom or dad. Then you can be
Yeah.
the best husband or wife. Then you can be the best leader of your clients or whatever it is that you do. And so take time. Don't take time. Make time to do the
Hmm.
thing. Don't feel
Hmm.
bad because your kids are eating breakfast that you're reading a book. You
Yeah.
know, it's not uncommon in the morning. My kids are now, girls are old enough where I will go get my workout in while they're just getting up. They're able to get themselves dressed. They don't need
Yeah.
my help to do that. They're able to get themselves not fed as much, but they're able to go brush their teeth. They know their responsibilities. So when I'm done with my little half-hour workout, it's like, you know, they're ready to eat and they're ready to get themselves off to school. And it's empowering to know that we've created that where it's like you have some responsibility in this too. I don't have to do everything and be right there for you, but look, dad's gonna spend his time doing the thing that he loves to do, and then when dad's done, he's gonna help you get off to school in the morning.
Yeah.
And same with mom. Mom should have the things that she loves to do. She should be able to do all the stuff that she loves to do that fill her cup because that's going to make her a better mom. She's going to come home and she's going to be a better mom for it, a better spouse for it. Part of it is like you have to communicate about that and get aligned because if my wife says she likes to read, you do you. You read as much as you want. Because at the end of the day, it's only going to make our family unit better.
Yep, I totally agree. Okay, well, our time has been filled up. This all about time here, and it has been a great time with you. And I would just love for you to share how our listeners can get in touch with you. What I know you have a podcast, so share that and share any other tools and things that they can get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So I'm pretty much everywhere, except for there are a lot of people that apparently have my same name. So we might find other people, but my website is iamchrisburns.com. From there, you can get to a lot of my social links. On LinkedIn, it is Chris B. Burns, double B in the middle. Otherwise, if you want the podcast content, that's also everywhere. It's Hustle Nation Podcast. So that's kind of my primary TikTok and YouTube, and there's Spotify, iTunes, kind of wherever. So if you want to get into my ecosystem and learn more about what I do on the vision guide stuff, the leadership, the marketing stuff, it's all out there for you. So thanks so much for having me, Shan. I really appreciate it.
Yes. And you just reminded me, we didn't get to touch on the word hustle, but I know it's on your podcast. It explains what you mean by it. So go over there because I know you are someone who likes to hustle. So go listen to Chris's podcast on Hustle Nation and what he means by it. And I hope you have some good takeaways for your you as a working mom. So Chris, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Wellness Warrior. I pray that blessed you. And if so, it would bless me big if you would write a 5-star review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Not only would this make me super happy, but it will allow for others to find this show too. Also, I love to chat over on Instagram, so make sure to take a screenshot, share to your Instagram stories, and tag me at the Shan Wright, so I can see it and we can keep chatting and bring other moms to chat with us. Until we get to chat again, mama friend, may the Lord's face shine upon you and give you peace.